Hello, so today I have a game from Dead by Daylight. This is a new game that I just bought, and it is a horror game where four survivors have to escape from one killer. That sounds easy, but trust me, it's not so easy. In order to escape from the area we are locked in, survivors must complete 5 generators, which are machines scattered across the map. They have to spend about 80 seconds on each generator to finish those generators before they are allowed a chance to open the exit gates and exit. And here you can see there are actually two people who look exactly like me. There's a Jerry guy and there's Whisperwalk, who is myself. Now I will point out when it is him and when it is me. But there's also a Bill in this game, and finally there's a guy with a crown. I'm not too sure what his character is. So killer is Huntress. Huntress, range killer, very strong. In my opinion, one of the strongest like top 10 killers in the game. She has a range attack, throwing her axe, which allows her to cover great distances, get end the chases very quickly, as long as she hits with the axe that she throws. So a good Huntress player would be very difficult to play against. Luckily, we are all amateurs, and yet I think that this game is not too much of an amateur game. The level of play is pretty watchable, so stay tuned and let's see how it goes. Now actually this is my second attempt at the recording, because the first time there was some microphone issues which one of my viewers pointed out. So we will actually be going through the game again, just because we will have to fix the audio issue. So I apologize if the first video was not watchable because of the bad microphone. There was some echo problem, but I managed to fix it. There's some problems in OBS that need to be fine-tuned. So anyway, about the game itself, the game happened in a map called Larry's Memorial. This is an indoor map which can be quite scary. To play indoor map against killers. Not that many places to hide. When the killer finds you, killer will definitely go after you. Very little places for you to hide and get away. So first thing the killer does, she sees the generator auras highlighted in green all over the map. So she starts looking around. Is there any survivor working on a generator? And here she has a perk, Spies from the Shadows, which allows her to see when some survivor has disturbed a raven. So there are many ravens scattered throughout the map, and if you run past them or walk past them, then the ravens will make a sound. Now normally it's just a sound, but because the Huntress has the Spies from the Shadows perk, the raven also appears in a bright yellow aura. This is a popular perk with killers to find their victims. So she heads there. She's like, "You must be here." "Nope, you're not here. You've gone elsewhere." And this is where they've gone to. Now the Huntress happens to also have a second perk called Discordance. What Discordance does is it highlights any generator in yellow if there are 2 or more survivors working on it. So you might want to think twice before having 2 people on a gen. It does backfire sometimes. And here we have the first misplay by Bill. When Huntress raises her axe, you should just get the hell out of there, because if you take time to throw down a pellet, she can just chuck it at you and get some early damage. So here Bill continues escaping, but this time he doesn't wait. He just gets out of the window and makes it out just in time. So here Bill actually plays correctly this time, and he does, in my opinion, what would be a very smart play. So the Huntress has to raise her axe before she can throw it at someone. When she's raising the axe, it will actually make a shimmering metal sound. So you know that Huntress is ready to shoot. Now he knows that Huntress hasn't raised the axe, therefore he threw the pellet down early in order to block the Huntress from continuing forward unless she breaks the pellet. And here's what he does. He crouches. Now if Bill had instead done a typical survivor thing and tried to run for the exit, like for example this one here, then Huntress would have a very easy time just aiming the hatchet, the axe, and just chucking it in his direction, and since he's already taken a hit, he will instantly go down. But instead of doing that, he crouches, and this forces Huntress to make some bad decisions. So she tries to get an angle, but she couldn't, and she just releases her axe in frustration, so she's down by 1 axe, even though it may not sound like a lot, but yeah, it's just frustration. She didn't actually need to release the axe. She knew there was no way it would have hit him. He was behind the table, behind the counter. She should have broken the pellet or just gone after him. And here he goes. So here Bill did what I would call the desperate play. He tries to turn around the corner to break the line of sight with the Huntress, but he just happens to be too slow, and so because of that we have our first down of the game. Bill is down. Where does Huntress take her? Huntress wastes no time at all, brings him to the basement. A basement is a very secure place to put any kind of victims, because especially if you are a Huntress and you just camp on the exit door, it's very difficult for the victim to escape from this basement. Very difficult for anyone to come and save him, because they would have to risk their lives crawling through the narrow staircase down. But Huntress does not camp the basement because there's still a long game to play, and if she did that, the remaining 3 survivors would finish the gens and get away, or rather they should finish the gens and get away. You still see a lot of survivors, especially at the amateur level, who sacrifice their lives to save this guy even though it's in a very bad position. So here we have a failed skill check, and who was the guy who failed the skill check? None other than yours truly, which is me. So my excuse is that I was a vacuum cleaner, very loud, playing in the background. In fact, the vacuum cleaner was my family, and they were vacuuming the house. They didn't actually stop vacuuming until the game was actually over. So I'm going to blame the vacuum cleaner for any missed skill checks in this entire game. But also, I was also missed skill checks in other games. So take from that what you will. So now the killer knows I'm there. She heads in my direction. She's like, come on man, give me my second hook of the day, but I've already left the area. But she knows I'm still around, so here she's my scratch marks, and this is where you see in this map, it's an indoor map. It's not really that many places you can hide. If I had tried to walk, or if I had tried to stealth away, it generally doesn't work because she would have caught up just in time. And here, in fact, she catches a glimpse of my jacket right outside the doorway. So the chase is on. Let's see what happens. First thing that I would do is I immediately try to break line of sight by going around the corners, and I try to hug the wall as close as possible. So you see that this is important because the killers are always given a faster movement speed than the survivors, which means that if you race and she races, they always catch up to you. So you have to maximize your movement, minimize your amount of movement needed. So the closest distance would be if you hug the walls tightly, which reduces your path. And you can see that the Huntress is not hugging the wall, so it would be a misplay on her part, for example. But maybe she's in the center in order to get more range on the axe. So here I could have done 2 things. I could have thrown the pellet down, I could have gone straight onto the room, but instead I make the smart play, which is to just turn around a corner and not give her any angle to throw the axe. But still, this doesn't work forever, because, and the reason is because the Huntress does have a bloodlust, which allows her to get faster as the chase goes on. And I do take a hatchet because I was not able to finish the corner just in time. But she still needs a second hit before she can claim the down. And here you see I throw the pellet down early. I know that she hasn't raised her axe yet because I didn't hear the hatch sound, and I had actually looked back for a split second just to confirm the distance between me and Huntress. So what I saw in that game was that there was still a moderate amount of distance, but not enough distance if I didn't throw down pellet. So I threw down a pellet, which gives Huntress one of two options. She could break the pellet, which takes some time, or she could go around the pillar, which is a longer path, so it also takes some time. So it allows me to get some distance, and I don't waste any time. I immediately just go right into the door, and her axe misses. So here I didn't do the same thing because I saw she was quite far away. I just got right outside the door, and she continues in pursuit. Oh, and this guy, he's not me, because as you can see, I took damage earlier, so my status icon had changed to this one, which is the injured icon. And earlier on, this Jerry, who looks exactly like me, was oops, sorry. Let me just reverse properly. So, which is actually the okay. We are back to the build part of the video. So we'll just rewind a bit because it's quite hard to get to the exact moments in the video. So Bill is taken to the basement, which, as I said earlier, very secure spot for a victim. Now actually the basement is a death sentence if you're low level, because at the low levels the killer just wants to kill you, and he doesn't care if the other three survivors get away. They just want one kill, and that's enough for them. And often they get more because many survivors are overly altruistic, and they'll just give themselves up for no reason. This is me. I missed the skill check. So as we rewind a little bit, you can see that my icon is full health, as well as Jerry also at full health. She finds the gen where I'm working on, and I've actually run into this bathroom. She sees it. She sees the scratch marks, and she goes after me. I turn around the corner. I turn around the corner to avoid 1x, and here I turn around the corner. She does not shoot this time, and here she holds, and she manages to get me because I couldn't reach the corner in time. Now I throw the pellet down early, buying me some extra time. Immediately duck into the corner to avoid another hatchet throw. She follows in pursuit, and you can see that Jerry is at full health, but here she loses me for some time, but she runs into the other guy who looks like me, and now he's injured as well. So you can see his icon changed to injured. So it's a bit confusing because there's two people who look exactly the same in the whole game. She goes after this guy, but then she kind of just stops chasing him. And here you can see that she actually missed me. I was just walking past the pellet. I just was for a very brief split moment of a second, I was actually at the other guy, the other pellet, and I just walked out. I was like, she didn't see me, so I just walked away, casually walked away. So Huntress now has reloaded her axes. She doesn't have infinite throws, she has to reload in the nearby lockers. She tries to reacquire my trail, and right here she does. She sees me running. But there's a raven being disturbed, and then she goes around and around, and here she sees that I'm at this generator, and you can see here this is this is a very nice misplay followed by a 180. So I actually vaulted out of this window, thinking that I would be smart, and try to escape in a direction that the killer's not expecting. What I immediately saw on the other side was I saw a Huntress, and I was like, no man, no man, I'm not doing this. So I immediately just turned around and went right back in, and it actually saved me from getting hit by an axe. So this was what happened. She went in, she went in, she went in, she went in, she tried to follow me, couldn't follow me. She went in, she was like, alright. He didn't come here. She saw the generator light up, and she tried to ambush the window, and it failed because I was out there.
โอ้ผมปาอะไรผมเนี่ยอื้อหือ
So she goes around looking, but I managed to get away this time. Okay.
จัดไป
So you can see that the survivor can actually put up a chase, and the longer we waste the killer's time, the more time there is for the survivors to work on the generators. So just because the killer has seen you doesn't mean you should give up and just die. Because even though the killer will eventually win since they are faster, and they usually have abilities like throwing an axe to shorten the chase. So because of that, you can't really expect to get away from the killer. But the main goal is to make the chase as long as possible. Give your teammates time to complete the generators. Now she goes round, and at this point in time, she actually loses track of me. And she saw me because I didn't continue running. Now, it is very tempting as a survivor to keep running, but what you can find is, especially if you're playing against better killers, is that they will not just follow where you're going, but they'll try to predict the direction you went, and then they take a shortcut. So what I did was, I wasn't very sure that whether she would try to take the shortcut through the bathroom, or whether she would try to go on the right side to intercept me, or whether she would follow me from the left. So what I did was, I waited at the entrance of the bathroom. I just stood there, and I just took a moment to assess the situation. So as you can see, this allowed her to see me, but I would say it also allowed me to see her, and that was very valuable. So here I could vault over the pallet, but as I said, Huntress is ranged, so if you vault over the pallet, the axe would have definitely hit.
โอ้ยผมตาปาไม่โดนเลยครับเนี่ยอะไรครับเนี่ย
So you can see, still going around corners, and once again, she tries to bait me into coming out on the left door so that she can intercept me with her melee attack. Because yes, Huntress does also have melee as well as range. So what makes her such a good killer, such a difficult killer to play against. But once again, I just saw it in the nick of time, and somehow I managed to turn around and head back in the other direction. So here I vaulted out of the window. So one thing about killers is that they don't like to go over windows, because going over window is slower than their normal movement speed. So this normally can buy you a little bit of time, because the killer will take another route, and she does. But you can see that the pallet that I threw down earlier is buying me some time, because she's not able to go straight on. She has to either break the pallet or go around again one more time. And she tries to raise her hatch, but by the time she has it fully raised, I've already gone into the next room, and there's no way for her to hit. So she goes in, and she's like, alright. And here I'm on this left side. I'm on the right side, and here she manages to intercept another survivor which is my twin. So what happened was after I got past the doorway, I saw the other David, and the other David decided to rush in her direction while I continued on the other direction. So sorry for David, but you just ran straight into the killer.
โอเคโอ้เครื่องนี้ใกล้เสร็จแล้ว
So here the Huntress actually does a pretty clever thing. She not only brings the guy to a hook, but on her way to the hook, she also has time to check another generator and get a free hit. So props to killer. Very, very smart play. Many killers just finish the hook before they find the gen. Now you can see that she's going after this guy, and he's thrown down the pallet early just to block the escape attempt. She gives up on the chase, but she comes back to kick the generator to prevent it from completing. She goes back, checks the hook, finds nothing, checks the room, checks the other room, still finds nothing. Now you notice that while the Huntress has been chasing me for, I would say, the majority of the game so far, that 3 generators have actually completed in the meantime. That is the power of surviving. Survivors, we don't have any weapon whatsoever that can harm the killer, unless you count decisive strike as a weapon, but not really. What we can do is we can waste time, and the better you are at wasting the killer's time, there are many ways to waste killer's time. Many ways. It's not just running away. You could also try baiting the killer into the wrong part of the map with the Ravens, for example. And you can see that the Huntress is doing what I would call proxy camping, and this is something very typical of Huntress players. In fact, I say 90% of Huntress players that I've come across will do this, which is that once they've got someone on a hook, they will keep returning back to the hook, while at the same time they will still check some gens, they will still play the game, but they will keep returning to the hook to make sure that nobody has come to rescue my twin here. Nobody has come to rescue, because they're very campy players, and Huntress with the range attack, it does support the camping playstyle quite a bit. Camping is something that is a bit frowned on she finds me. It's a bit frowned on in the game community, but I would say it's a legitimate strategy, because camping doesn't involve any kind of hacks, doesn't involve cheating, outright cheating. It is an easy way to get additional kills, and you would see many games decided, even up to a very high level, many games are decided by overly altruistic survivors going for the unhook when it is not safe to do so. And what Huntress does is she would normally patrol the hooks, because her X ability allows her to shoot any survivors that dare to come near to get unhooked, or she can also shoot at the survivors who have successfully unhooked and are running away. So camping, and she finds me, and I guess she would shoot right, and I went left. So here she's still going after me, and at this point in time I ran into a column in the wall, so I wasn't able to make the corner in time, but she was actually already very close to me anyway, so she managed to get me after all this time. She's finally gotten me. Okay, you can see Bills escape the basement when she's not around. She reloads the X. I was pretty happy to be in the basement, because it's a nice and relaxing way to spend the rest of the game. After all that running, maybe my legs could use a break. So she goes back onto the hunt, and she looks for other survivors. Bill completes a gen just before She reaches, very unfortunate for Bill, and now survivors are just one generator left for victory. But then, you know, so close yet so far. The game actually becomes really bad after I was taken out. I'm not saying that I'm a good player. I did fail all those skill checks and all that, but I think I did waste Huntress time the most among all the players. So I was the best looper, if you call me a looper. I was the best at looping. Oops, I think we fast forward too far in front. So he gets Bill. Bill dodges. Bill is actually semi-decent. He knows what to do. He knows should just run the walls, hug the corners, break the line of sight, not allow the Huntress an open angle. But Mr. Crown, he didn't do so well.
มาสักคนหนึ่งแบบนี้จุกง่ายดีอ่ะ
So she catches up with Bill, and here the Crown guy makes another mistake. He threw a pellet, but he was on the wrong side of the killer. So because he was on the wrong side, he was now trapped between the pellet and Huntress, and Huntress manages to realize that this is an easy guy. He's right beside me. She doesn't chase after the Bill. She gets the easy down. So, oh my god, why does it keep fast forwarding? Let me just... backward again. Why does it fast backward?
เพิ่งอยู่ไกลจัด
Okay, anyway, she brings this guy to the basement. She really likes bringing people to the basement, you know. So here she catches up with me again. I was working on this gen, but you see, I had the pellet thrown down from much earlier in the game, if you remember, from the start of the game. I actually returned to this generator, but I wasn't able to get much progress done because she patrolled quite fast and she managed to pick me up again.
ตัวนี้
Oh my god, what is going on with the...
ไปปั่นเครื่องอีกเครื่องเดียวเพิ่งอยู่ไกลจัด
What is going on with the pausing? It just keeps fast forwarding every time I pause, which is not what I wanted.
นี่ก็จุกเป็น
So she decides not to go after me, but kicks the gen instead.
เที่ยวการดีๆกว่านี้หน่อยนะโดนแน่
She should have gone after me because Jen didn't have much progress on it. But here she comes in, finds this guy, the Crown guy. She picks him up, and she brings him to the hook.
โอเคครับอยู่ทางนี้
So there's still one gen left, you know, and to be frank, if we were more experienced players and the players knew where all the gens are, we probably would have won the game. But especially on map like Larry's, it can be difficult to find the generators because unlike Killer, we can't see the generator with a red aura, so it's pretty difficult to find the generator. And in such situations, survivors tend to run around like a headless chicken. Like they don't really know what they're doing. And here you can see that I failed some skill checks on the top level. On upstairs, I actually tried to heal Bill, who was injured from earlier. but I failed the skill check because, as I said, vacuum cleaner, man. I'm just going to blame the vacuum cleaner for everything. The vacuum cleaner playing in the background, so I just couldn't hear the skill check when it triggered. So I failed it like 3 times in a row, and she's like, what the hell is going on there? The Huntress is like, the hell is going on there? And she's like, well, probably nothing. Probably nothing. So as I said, there's many ways to waste a killer's time, and one of the ways to waste a killer's time is to fail skill checks. Sometimes you can fail a skill check intentionally. It's a trick that I discovered by accident because I'm quite new to game. I fail skill checks for a bit, and I realized that failure is sometimes a tactical weapon. Because, for example, in this case, there's only one generator left, and if she had gone upstairs to check the noise, both Bill and me would have left by the time she went upstairs. That's the first problem for her. Second problem is it would have taken her away from the last generator, which would have allowed the survivors to finish the objective. She decides, well, the noise is probably nothing, but she did look at it for at least a few seconds. She realized that, well, they're probably baiting me or something, but they're not. They're just doping out for real. So she's going around. She's got one guy on the hook. She's patrolling the last 3 generators on the map, and here this is Jerry. Jerry dead hards into the wall. So dead hard, very good skill. Dead hard into a wall, not so good. But I'm not going to judge that too much because we're not exactly professional Dead by Daylight players. Everyone makes mistakes. But here is where I would judge my twin Jerry, this guy Jerry, because when you see this icon, it means that they're disconnected. Now this Jerry guy is only on his second hook, which means that in fact he could hang there, wait for someone to rescue him. He could just wait to be rescued, and he would still be in the game. But instead, he was so embarrassed by his dead hard into the wall that he just gave up hope and immediately just rage quitted, like immediately disconnected from his PC. He's like, oh man, I'm never gonna live this down. But you know, there are many games where you can go all the way down the third hook and still escape in the end. You should play on. You should never give up. So because he gave up so soon, Huntress comes back and she does find me on the gen. Now, if he had wasted a little bit more time, because the hook animation takes a few seconds, then I would have gotten a little bit more progress on the last generator. And as I mentioned, it's the last one. We finished this one and it's on to the exit gates. But no, he had to DC. So bad survivor. I mean, bad David. Bad David. I'm the good David. I didn't give up. Not even when I was taken to the basement. So you can see I failed skill checks quite a bit. I'm not sure if that was me or that was my teammate, but I did fail quite a bit of skill checks. So that probably was me again. But you know, vacuum cleaner. I'm just gonna blame the vacuum cleaner for everything. She finds me on the wrong direction, and this time round, I should have turned around, but I didn't see her. I didn't see her at all until I got hit. She wasn't in my line of sight. I was running and I didn't realize that I was run straight into the killer. Absolute pro gamer move. So now she realizes that there's tons of survivors, and it's like, man, there's tons of survivors. Which one do I go after? Like, oh my god, these track marks. They're running all over the place. I can't tell where is where. It's like, who the fuck are all these people? But she finds Bill sabotaging a hook. Now, Bill, sabotaging hooks can be a clever move, but in this particular position in the game, just do the final generator. I mean, it doesn't take a lot. Do the final generator, open the gates, Get the hell out of there. Game over. You win. Killer 0 or 1 because there was a DC. So here I failed another skill check, but this time I had just walked away from the generator. Sometimes what happens in Dead by Daylight is that the skill check starts after you've already walked away from the generator, and this can be quite a stupid mechanic. But I'm not going to blame that because I've been failing a lot of skill checks the whole game, a lot of times already. So we're going to stick to the vacuum cleaner as our excuse. So she finds the crown guy, she loses me, but she finds the crown guy, and the crown guy makes another critical mistake, which is why early in the game, you saw me, I was just waiting at the door. I didn't go anywhere, I didn't go left, I didn't go right, I didn't run. I just waited to see where she was. So he didn't actually see where she was, and therefore she was able to get a hit on him by baiting him into taking the right door, where she answered with an axe thrown to the face. So this guy, he gets on a hook. So you can see that even with just one generator left, it's taking a very long time because we couldn't get the job done. And this is a problem with survivors sometimes, that we can start well, and now here Bill, he made another mistake. He vaulted into the killer and continued straight instead of turning around, going back into the vault, which you saw me doing that earlier. You saw that it also saved my life, because when you walk back, unless she's that close that she could grab you off the vault, she's forced to either go past the vault herself, which buys you a little bit of time. But he didn't do that. He didn't turn around, because I know we make mistakes, but what's important is that we should backtrack from our mistakes. In this case, he should have vaulted back in, and that would have saved his life. Instead, he went straight on. Killer is faster than survivor. She gets an easy down on him, and it's his death hook, because he's already been hooked twice in this game. So you see, from 4 players on the final gen, we now have 1 DC, 2 on the hook. Oh, Bill's not dead. Bill's dead. Sorry. So Bill's on death hook. He dies. We've got 1 dead, 1 DC, 1 on the hook, and only me left, and I'm injured. So what does the Huntress do? So Huntress, she assumes there are only 2 players left. Therefore, the most likely thing for me to do is to come and unhook this guy. Therefore, she ran to the hook with her axe raised. So if she saw me running either to or from the hook, she would have thrown the axe, and I'm injured. I would have gone down, and the Huntress would have a total party wipeout, total kill, total win. But as I told you, 90% of the Huntress players that I see are proxy campers or patrollers. So I didn't do that. What I did was, I did the, you could say selfish, and you could also say smart. I did the selfish or smart decision, especially when you think about my build. So I let this guy stay on the hook, and I let him die. And here he dies. So before coming into the game, a survivor gets to choose 4 perks that they can bring. Now, many survivors will bring the most powerful perks that they can find, like Decisive Strike, for example, meta perk Spine Chill, another meta perk. Now, I didn't run all these perks, but what I did run was, I ran the perk called Left Behind. So what does Left Behind do? Left Behind is a perk that is very, very narrow. It only works, Left Behind only works if you are the last survivor left in the trial. and all your teammates have died. So in order for this perk to activate, you must essentially be the last man standing. And what happens once you're the last man standing? Once you are the last man standing in the trial, then there's a second way to escape from the game. It's called the hatch. Hatch is a trapdoor that opens at the end of the game once there's only one survivor left in the trial, and it is an alternative way to escape, even if they had not powered all the generators. This hatch is normally in a very well hidden place, and it's also normally very difficult to find, but there's a sound that you can watch for. There's a sound you can watch for in order to get to the hatch. But as I said, there was a vacuum cleaner, very loud. I couldn't hear any kind of sound for the whole game. It's like bare minimum of sounds that I can hear. And at this point in time, you have to think about this. Okay, the Huntress is range killer. If she sees me running to the hatch, she throws the hatch, she throws her axe, I go down, she wins. Huntress is also faster than me, therefore she can cover more ground, she can find the hatch faster than me. I mean, just looking at it from a statistics point of view, she would find the hatch faster than me, she closes the hatch, it's GG for me. So what I had left behind. Left behind makes the hatch visible from a long range, and it lights up in red, just like how Huntress can see the generators in red. And so it allows the survivor, who is the last person remaining in the trial, it's an insurance policy, to be able to see the hatch, go to the hatch, get the hell out of there before the Huntress or any killer finds it. Oh, by the way, this Left Behind perk has already, I've been running it for 2 days, and of all the games, I've actually successfully gotten away 3 times. 3 times, okay? So once I got away from an invisible wraith, that was quite scary. Imagine that you're looking for a hatch and there's also an invisible killer looking for you. The second time that I got out using Left Behind, there was a pyramid head. Pyramid head was going after me, and he saw me. He was going after me. But what happened? The hatch icon lit up in red. I ran straight to the hatch. I took one hit before, so I was injured. But before he could deliver the second hit, I jumped down and I got out. So this game doesn't last very long after this. So the guy officially dies, and then she breaks this pallet, and she was going to continue, but it's over. I won. I got out. So hatch wins a little bit of a cheap way to win, but the game developers definitely put it there because they thought that if you make it out and you're the last man standing, you deserve a chance, even if your team hasn't successfully done all the generators. You deserve a chance to get out. That's what the game developers decided. So I don't complain about camping. I say it's legitimate strategy. It's up to the survivor to counter it, but it's not up to the survivor to get angry about it, and neither should the killer be salty about survivors going through hatches. Whether or not they use a key, that's a different story. If the game developers made it possible to happen, then it's part of the game, and I got out. So that's game versus Huntress. I think it's a pretty enjoyable game. In fact, as I played many games, some games will be of such terrible quality that it's not even worth commenting about it. I felt this was a very interesting game. Fighting against Huntress, trying to survive against her in an indoors map, where you can really use those corners against her, especially if you hug those walls very tightly. You can actually compensate somewhat for her extra movement speed, because the Huntress, as you saw, she was not hugging the walls. She was like in the center, so her run distance was slightly longer than mine, and I just stuck to the walls every time I could. I just went into other rooms as much as I could. I looked her around. loop, and I used the windows against her, backtrack when I saw that she was on the other side, and I believe that if the other remaining survivors, back when we were like at a 4-man, we were still at 4 men, and I think if the 4 survivors, the remaining survivors kept their cool, like you saw that it all went south when the guy just DC'd after he dead hardened into the wall. If he didn't lose his cool, I think we would have all made it. And because the whole game we managed to outplay the Huntress, so she only got a very, very small amount of hooks before we were down to 1 gem. And I feel that we should have taken this game, but because we weren't a sweat team, we were noobs, we were all solo queue, so it kind of went against our favor. I felt that the player with the crown on his head was probably the weakest player on the team. It's probably the weakest player on the team because every time he got found, he was down quite easily, and he used stealth too much. He tried to hide instead of doing generators or baiting the killer or doing stuff like that. I think he just couldn't find the gens. I think if he could find the gens, he would have done the gens. We would have gotten out of there. And I think Bill, he had some of the concepts of how to play against Huntress. He had some of the concepts, and he just got caught out in certain places. Either his timing wasn't right, or he just misread the situation. And the other guy who looked like me, he's the guy. He's the guy that I would say threw the game for us because he DC'd when he was only on second hook. So that's all for this game. I hope this was enjoyable to watch as it is for me to play. Thanks very much.